Welcome everyone, you have landed on the channel of TheEbfatz. My name is Eb. We'll be talking today about the great game that is Championship Manager 2001-2002. As you see on your screen, we'll actually be talking about the new starter kit from a guy called Jon Betts, and it's a perfect piece of equipment. So what we're going to do is talk about all the different things that can be added to your game and will enhance your game using the starter kit. So you can see on the screen there's lots of different options there. Excuse me. There's different databases that you can use, different commentary, the official editor of the game, obviously, Android. We can show you how to add the game to Android. A couple of little tools called CM Scout and the generated player finder, and then different ways of using save games and restoring save games. So we'll start with the data updates, I think. So what this does is allow you to, instead of when you're using a PC and adding different databases manually each time, there are lots of different databases added to the starter kit which you can implement at literally just the touch of a button. So as you can see there in front of you, you will have the original game 3.960, the patch game that came out all those years ago just afterwards 3.9.68. But then there'll be lots of different options. So if you were to visit the forums at ChampMan0102.net, you will be able to find all these different historical databases that have been created. So the oldest one we go back to now is the 1989-90 database. That was by a guy called Simon. We have three databases: 93-94, 95-96 and 98-99, all created by a guy called CamF. We have one called the Lusenhoff database, which is essentially the same as the 3.9.60, but one gentleman has been working on it for a good decade to update and enhance the players that were in the original game but didn't really live up to what they did in real life. So the first person I would think of in there is Zinedine Zidane. So he's in the original game, but he's not quite as good as he actually worked out in real life. So on the Lusenhoff database, he's been upgraded and he becomes a worldie. Conversely, the other way, some players that were amazing on the game, you can all name them, I'm sure, but some of those have been downgraded just slightly, so they actually have the careers that they played out in real life. Obviously, some of the cult heroes that you'll think of, the Duffs, the Victories, the Sambas, well, I'll leave it for you to find out. The other databases on there as well are the last three data updates from the team at ChampMan0102.net. So they are the November 2020 database, the April 2021 database, and the most recent, the October 2021 database. So let me just show you how quick and easy it is to actually load up one of these databases in the starter kit. So if I was to choose 3.9.60, that's done. I would then click OK, and then on the previous page you would have seen a play game button. Just simply need to hit that button then and you're away. If I then decided I fancy playing with up-to-date players, we'll just click October 2021, and again, quick as a flash, that is done. And then you would just go back to this page here, hit play game, and you're away. So the other enhancement that has come out in recent years is Nick's Patcher. So if you haven't used that, it essentially has tapped into the application that is the game and looked at how it's been built, as far as we can go anyway, without source code and stuff like that. But it will allow you to edit some parts of your game prior to you starting. So let me just click this button, I'll show you what I mean. So lots of options there. You've got starting year, so obviously the original game starts in 2001, but you can click to change and start your save in any given year up to the current year. You can even go into the future if you wanted to, so that's possible. What it will do on some databases, obviously with the November 2020, you could potentially just start in 2020, so it's as realistic as possible. We have game speed, so that will change the speed that the game processes first of all, but also how fast it goes through your commentary and stuff. So ×1 is original speed, ×2 will be twice as fast as that, 4 times, 8 times, up to 200 times faster. The commentary will fly through and end your games that bit quicker for you if you wanted to. Other options that you have are currency inflation. So let's say, for example, Maxim Sigalko, let's say for example he will start at £100,000 as a price tag. This is where the original game will start at 1. If you wanted to increase finances, so if you're using maybe the new database and you want finances to reflect that and the numbers that people are paying for players at the moment, you can increase your inflation. So using the same example, Sigalko, if he's 100 grand, if you go to 2, he's worth 200 grand. You go to 4, he's 400 grand. 5, he's 500 grand. It's just an exact mirroring, and it shows you those numbers differently when you play the game. So again, for the club's bank balance, if it were to start at £10 million transfers available, you update that to 5 and you'll automatically have £50 million. Yeah, does that all make sense? Moving on to the next one, add coloured attributes. So a lot of people would like to play with the coloured attributes on the original game. The numbers on the player screen are all yellow. This adds a coloured scale. So as the attributes increase from 1 to 20, the colours change also. So as you get above 10, it goes slightly oranger. 15 or more, it's a deeper red. When you get to red, full red, is when you reach those 20s. You can, of course, add Regen Fixes. So this is something that was created by a guy called Tapani, who used to be around on the forums some time ago. And what it did essentially is it adds some changes to how regens work in the game. So it fixes a number of things related to them. So only clubs that have 45 or less players in the squad will now have regens generated to them. And it also fixes, you'll notice when you get someone from an obscure nation maybe, they would come back at a later age. So your regen, you'll be expected to come back at 16, 17 maybe. Sometimes they'll come back and they're already 26, 27, sometimes even older. And that gives you a decade less to improve that player and get them to reach their potential. This fixes that. So whether they come from American Samoa, whether they come from Zambia, all the way through from A to Z, you will find that they will come back lower in age, and that will allow you to, if you're able to sign them, of course, give them time to add to a training regime, whatever you'd like to do in the game, to get them to their, or as close as possible to their full potential. We've also got add Tapani regens there. Again, that same man Tapani, who was a man who was around for some time. What he's done, on the forum they'd found that scoring was going down, so they've added this fix. So it fixes an issue where regens get an ever increasing positioning attribute. So you'll notice on the original game players will come through and their positioning will already be 20. This fixes that. So it also makes regens come back a little bit more balanced, so that you don't get them coming through and within a couple of months your 15-year-old striker has got finishing of 20, off the ball of 20, heading of 20, stuff like that. Excuse me. And the other things you'll see are you can remove work permits, that's quite obvious. Hide non-public bids, that's quite obvious as well. Increase to 9 subs. So in the real world today, during the COVID times, teams are allowed to name 9 subs and make 5 subs. If you want to do that in your save, you tick that box. Unprotected contracts obviously wasn't a thing much longer after the original game came out, so that can be turned off. You can remove all foreign player limits, so some leagues will only allow you to have 3 non-EU players. Obviously in the real world, in real time, that's out the window, so that can remove that as well. You also see something called load all players. So when you load your game, you choose minimum, normal or maximum database, but depending on where you start, you don't actually see all those players, and they don't always load. So for example, there's Talon Martin from Australia. If you didn't load the Australian league, you may not find him in your save. What Load All Players does is allows every single player in that database to be available to you regardless of the number of leagues that you select. So obviously if you were to select all the leagues in the game, you'd have quite a slow running game. But if you choose to start your save in England, you don't want to move to a different country during that save, just load England, but you tick Load All Players, and all players will load into the game, and you'll be able to sign Talon Martin, if you can get a work permit for him, obviously. The next one is an interesting one, Uncap Attributes, or Uncap 20s it's been called as well. So what it does is you'll see in game your star striker will have finishing of 20, but it won't go higher than that. Under the hood in the game, his numbers will be higher than 20. There will be something called Intrinsic Values, and that's something for a different video. But what this patch does is remove the number 20 being the upper limit. So it removes the attribute limit of 20 set in the game, allowing you to see a much more accurate value when certain players have extremely good attributes. These values can now range from 1 to up to 46, I believe. And a prime example, of course, is Maxim Sigalko. His finishing attribute at the start of the game is actually higher than 20. Mark Fish, a central defender, used to play for Charlton in real life. His heading, I believe, starts at 24. As the game goes on, you'll notice more and more players, as they are trained and increase their potential, will have numbers above 20. You'll find it with staff members as well. The highest numbers I've personally seen are for a physio, with a physiotherapy attribute of 46. Now the final one there, show hidden attributes. You may have seen this elsewhere. What it does is add a 4th column to your player screen. So you'll know when you see the player screens, you have those 3 columns, and they have all your attributes: finishing, marking, pace, all that kind of stuff. This one adds a 4th column, and it has attributes that are or have been in the original game hidden. So you get things like big matches, consistency, injury proneness, penalties. So when you're signing that player, if you see that he's got an injury proneness of 19, maybe you'll choose not to sign that man because he'll spend far too much time on the treatment table. So the final one that I missed, you may have noticed, was use miscellaneous patches. These are obviously optional, but what Jon has done with the starter kit is add a load of stuff that if you were to tick that box as I have there, you will get many things already included. So I'm just going to run through those now. So you'll have AI squad status. What that will do is show you the squad status of every player from every team, not just your own. So if you're managing Newcastle, like I normally would, and you looked at, I don't know, Manchester United, you could look through their squad. If someone is listed as not needed, you might be able to pick them up for a little bit cheaper. If they're listed as indispensable to club, you might have to bump your transfer fee much higher than you would probably like to, and still maybe not be successful. Other ones, all jobs together. So when you're on the jobs page, that will allow you to see all available jobs from every league that you've chosen on one page, so you wouldn't need to skip through all the different pages. Allow instant squad status bidding, reset. So that allows you, when you attempt to sign and you choose them as a hot prospect, they say, I don't want to be a hot prospect, I'm not coming from there to join you on that. Normally when you come out of that page, you then have to wait 10 to 14 days before that resets and you can change to important first team player, whatever it might be. This now allows that to change instantly. Background hires. Teams in leagues loaded in the background will hire managers where they previously didn't. That was always an issue. So if you put Spain on background, ran a couple of seasons in England and then went back to Spain, you'd find a large majority of those teams would be unmanaged because the manager had left and they hadn't replaced them. Chairman attributes is a good one. The ability to see the attributes of every chairman in the game. So this will allow you to see whether their patience score is high or low. If their patience is 1, they'll be very impatient. They will expect instant results from you. May well be that if you lose a couple of games, you might be out on your ear. Bosman signings are now allowed in Croatia and Poland, and removed in Israel and Ukraine. That was slightly different in the original game. You could never get a Bosman from Croatia or Poland. More options in the transfer fee drop down menu. So you can now go from 0 to 100 grand, 250, 500, a million, all the way up to 75 million. So that's for people who potentially want to use the updates and want to use inflation. Human attributes is a good one. So on your profile, you will notice you're never able to actually click on your profile and see how good you are, what the game has selected as your preferred formation. With this patch, you can now do that. Nick's Fitness patch is added, so that adds fitness differences. You have the page down patch. It's a good one I used to like on Windows. Instead of having to click continue game, my page down was in the bottom right of my laptop, so barely had to move my hand. Just hit that button and that will be the continue button for you. Reduce work permit wait down from 25 days up maximum to 14 days maximum. Scout role offer is a good one. So assistant managers and coaches can now be offered roles as scouts. You can see any team's finance. So a good example is when a team is looking to hire you as their manager, they'll say we have a little bit of money available. But now you can actually look at their finances on the team screen, and their little bit of money available, maybe 50 grand, maybe that they're already in the red a little bit. Okay, there's lots of other things as well that can be added, but we'll save those for another video. So yeah, just to say, this starter kit is available from ChampMan0102.net. It is really simple. The other thing that I think you will notice here is when you look at the top of my bar there, you'll notice that I'm playing on Mac. So it is Mac compatible. As you see on the left, do like, share, subscribe, comment. If there's anything else you want to see, please do let me know and I'll try and make those videos for you. But yeah, in the meantime, get yourself on those forums, download the game if you haven't, download the starter kit if you find it difficult, and you will be up and running and playing the great game that is Championship Manager 0102 within minutes. Thanks very much for joining me today.